Wow, what a difference. Okay, here we go.
I won't just turn the car around. I'm going to shut it off. I'm going to kick you out, and I'm going to make you walk home.
Ben, the mayor's always right.
Mayor's always right, ladies and gentlemen. Just remember that, Chicago. The mayor's always right, even if what she says today completely contradicts what she said yesterday. Okay? Wait, but you go, Ben, how could she be right each time? Shut up. She'll take your car and make you walk. She's always right.
Yeah, can you guess what's been on Ben's mind all weekend?
Oh, God. Lori Gate. Mayor Gate. Mayor Lightfoot Gate.
All right, everybody, your Ben Joravsky show is just moments away for Tuesday, December 22nd. Ooh, holiday season. We're here. But before we get into this, we need to thank the Chicago Reader, chicagoreader.com, for all things the city of Chicago. Check out the Chicago Reader if you've yet to. Check us out on YouTube, the Chicago Reader YouTube channel. So much Chicago stuff, political, all things the city of Chicago, chicagoreader.com. Subscribe. A great way to support this program is by subscribing to the Ben Joravsky Show. And, maybe a little letter after you subscribe. Hey, that Ben Joravsky Show's great. Keep him around. I don't know if you want to. If not, it's cool. Don't worry about it. And also, today's program is brought to you by our good friends at the Chicago Federation of Labor.
No collusion.
Donnie Trump.
We Frank is on the live stream chat at the moment. He usually gives us our song of the day, but we have no song of the day. Frank, what's going on, man? Okay, we have a song of the day. Look at that.
Wow,
Frank
that was fast. It's not playing, man.
You're freaking me out, Frank. All right, there is a delay on here, but anyway, your song of the day is from the Monkees. I'm a Believer.
Oh, even you know that song, right?
I think
even
so.
You know that song.
Shrek?
Yes, you do.
Smash Mouth?
Didn't they did a cover of it?
Yeah.
For 10 trivia points, who wrote the song?
The Monkees.
No. Monkees, man. I don't know if the Monkees wrote any of their hits.
Oh.
The song was written by your favorite, Neil Diamond.
Oh.
And yes.
Totally sounds like a Neil Diamond song.
Yes, it does. It sounds a lot like thank the Lord for the night time, forget the day. Anyway, I'm a believer. Yeah, not a trace. A doubt in my mind. I'm in love. Woo.
Will we have a song of the day in 2021? Probably.
Yeah.
The Ben Joravsky Show starts now. It is Tuesday, December 22nd, and live from my apartment and his attic, this is the Ben Joravsky Show. Today on the program, Legal Eagle, Ace Attorney, Jim Coogan. And now your host, not a Legal Eagle or Ace Attorney, Chicago Reader columnist Ben Joravsky.
Hello, everybody. Ben Joravsky here. We're calling this Trump Check Tuesday, and here's why. Good weekend. You have a good weekend, D?
Wait. Yeah, I did. It was a good weekend. It was great.
Wow. What were we waiting for? You got to think about it?
I just thought about it, kind of going on. I didn't want to BS you here, bud. So
yeah.
It was
By the way,
good.
ladies and gentlemen, you can't see it because we don't have cameras, but Dennis is looking awfully sporty. He trimmed his beard. When he first came on, I go, wait a minute. Is that Russell Crowe? I don't know why I thought I do know why I thought of Russell Crowe. I'll get to that later. Anyway,
Russell Crowe's put on a lot of weight lately, so you got to really, let me know what Russell Crowe you're talking about. Okay, thank you.
Young Russell Crowe.
Thank you.
Young, good-looking, strapping Russell Crowe. That Russell Crowe. Anyway, so and you, by the way, don't look anything like Russell Crowe. I'm just saying that. He popped into my mind for different reasons. All right, saw 3 great flicks this weekend. They're what I call run, don't walk. So they're run, don't walkers. Sound of Metal, check it out. Uncle Frank, check it out. The best of all, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. Man, August Wilson's Play, Netflix turned into a movie. Great flick, 2 thumbs way up. Chadwick Boseman and Viola Davis going at it. And that was, of course, the last movie Chadwick made before he died of cancer. Haven't seen such dynamic duos on the screen since Denzel Washington and Russell Crowe in American Gangster. And that's why I thought of Russell Crowe, D.
Or until Ben Joravsky Show, the movie, comes out. You know what I mean?
I know. Wow, talk about dynamic duos. Dr. D and me.
Playing Dennis, Russell Crowe.
A young Russell Crowe. Not an old, fat Russell Crowe, but a young, slender Russell Crowe. Looking good.
Thank you.
Let's get that straight, everybody.
Thank you.
Although, DiCaprio, you could be Leo playing Dr. D. Leo.
Leo, are you cool just letting things go for like 3 or 4 months, just shaving your head?
And no question, I'm going to be played by Al Pacino. Hey, Ben, you fucking Ben. Huh?
Oh, my God, Ben.
That's more like De Niro, by the way. I went into De Niro right there.
Yeah, De Niro would totally play you.
Yeah, De Niro. Anyway, where was I? I woke up to realize that there was great news in the world, sort of. Congress passed a stimulus bill. All right, Nancy Pelosi, woo! Though it does nothing, really, to give folks who desperately need aid, the aid they need to get through joblessness because of the pandemic. And it does absolutely nothing to help cities and states that are busted because no revenue coming in. By the way, there was an editorial on my blog, a bright one, home delivered, as always. And I actually agreed with 9/10 of what the Sun-Times wrote in their editorial. But then they wrote this: the bipartisan relief package fails to include any direct assistance to state and local government. Nobody wants Congress to bail out states for fiscal problems of their own making. We're thinking of you, Illinois, but the pandemic has devastated state finances across the nation. I think that sometimes has a correction. They have to write a correction, D, when they go, nobody wants Congress to bail out states for fiscal problems. Negatory. I would love for them to bail out Illinois. It's not my fault that governors and legislators made promises that they didn't fulfill. I dutifully pay my taxes year after year. I want the feds to bail us out. Where is the bright one when we need them to urge the feds to bail us out? It's that Dudley Do-Right stuff, D. Nobody wants a bailout. Nobody wants assistance for the errors that they're paying for that they didn't commit. Nobody wants that. I think the number of people who would love a bailout so they don't have to pay more in taxes would stretch all the way from Waukegan to Carbondale. How about that, D? A little geography there. Waukegan at the top of the state, and Carbondale at the bottom. So,
hey,
beloved bright one, I think you owe a correction. Tomorrow, the clarification. When we wrote Nobody Wants, we didn't check in with Benny J. What else? So as I was saying, the stimulus bill does absolutely nothing to help cities and states that are busted because there's no revenue coming in because of the pandemic. Thanks a lot for nothing. And it's really a little more than a one-time distribution of $600 in the form of a check. Oh, here comes the brown line. Choo-choo-choo-choo. Yep. Mayor Pete driving that train ever since he got the gig, D. He loves driving the brown line. It's a little more than a one-time distribution of $600 in the form of a check signed by Donald Trump, who had, by the way, nothing to do with the hard work and negotiations to get Congress to pass the stimulus. I just want to say, Donald Trump has been AWOL since the election. He just sits in his office crying like the little baby he is because he lost.
No collusion.
I have never seen such a poor loser in all my life, ladies and gentlemen. And I've dealt with New York Knicks fans. Remember the Bulls beat the Knicks? Oh, God, the refereeing was terrible.
And there went our New York audience.
By the way, Dave Zirin will be on the show next week, a sports writer from New York. Grew up a New York Knicks fan. Fascinating conversation. Can't wait for you folks to hear it. Politics and sports mix and merge. Anyway, what a sore loser Donald Trump is. But he hasn't been completely worthless. He has spent a lot of his time soaking suckers and saps of the MAGA persuasion for donations to his favorite charity, himself. Dude's raised tens of millions of dollars since the election, and he's pretty much free to spend it however he wants. Oh, yes, I know there are laws that are supposed to keep Trump from spending it on himself, but come on, folks, let's be real. When has Donald Trump ever abided by any such laws? It's more like he figures I'll spend it the way I want, and how I want. And if you don't like it, see you in court. That's how Donald Trump has done business for all these years, and it's worked well for him. Why would he change now that he's in his 70s? By the way, there's a great story in the New York Times this weekend, which I shared with many of my friends. I was sending it out all throughout the weekend about all the campaign cash that Trump's raised, how it's going into this limited liability corporation. It's just sort of disappearing. Nobody's going to know how it was spent. What a crook this guy is. Anyway, back to the $600 checks. They're mailing them out just in time for the election in Georgia. So some MAGA dude in Georgia will say, wow, Donnie Trump gave me $600. I'll vote for Kelly Loeffler and Purdue over the socialists. Folks, I've seen voters vote for dumber reasons. I'm talking about you, 44th Ward residents, 44th Ward on the north side of Chicago, who have year after year voted for Tom Tunney for their alderman. You say to them, but 44th Warders, Tunney voted to approve the mayor's wretched parking meter deal. And they'll say, I know, but I love his cinnamon rolls. So Chicagoans, one more time, don't think you're smarter than MAGA voters. That Georgia election has to be fired up. Got an email from the Republicans urging me to vote against Raphael Warnock and John Ossoff in order to take a stand on behalf of, drumroll please, Christmas. Yes, yes, Christmas is under assault. As far as the Republicans concerned, it's always under assault. Nothing has ever really changed in terms of Christmas. My whole life, Christmas is Christmas. Every year there's Christmas. TV fills with commercials about Christmas. Newspapers filled with commercials about Christmas. And yet somehow or other, every year the Republicans are trying to scare people into voting Republicans, voting against Democrats on the grounds that Christmas is under assault. And they're doing it again with Ossoff and Warnock, like they're the Grinches that want to steal Christmas. I know. I am not supposed to shame voters. I've made this promise to various lefties who come on this show and tell me, Ben, you should stop shaming voters. But if that Save Christmas appeal swings vote in Georgia, one vote in Georgia, then we will have a new group of voters even more clueless than folks in the 44th Ward who really love their cinnamon rolls. We got a great show today, everybody. Yes, yes, indeed.
Those are good cinnamon rolls. Just saying. They're great cinnamon rolls. For what it's worth, they're really good.
No, I understand. I get it, 44th Waters. He voted for the parking meter deal. I know, but I love the cinnamon rolls. He voted for the Lincoln Yards TIF. Yeah, I know. But he loves those cinnamon rolls. Are so scrumptious, delicious.
You have to be a good neighbor. You have to be a good neighbor. Otherwise, I'm going to be up your butt every day.
Okay. Let me tell you something, Chicago. I do not want to hear one disparaging remark about MAGA voters. All right. Yesterday we had Sarah Bingaman on the show, indivisible activist out in MAGA country trying to win over voters for Democrats. And she was explaining how many voters out there think that Democrats just are condescending and patronizing. And that's part of the reason they love Donnie so much. And they got a point. Democratic voters in the cities think they're so much smarter than MAGA voters. And then when I look at how they vote, I'm like, dude, you got nothing to make fun of MAGA for. Just saying, 44th Waters who've elected Tom Tunney year after year. Just saying, City of Chicago who elected Lori Lightfoot after electing Rahm Emanuel. Oh, wait a minute. Did I vote for Lori Lightfoot? Let's edit that one out, D, okay?
All right.
Just, edit that one out, okay?
Take care of that. I'll take care of that.
I'm as dumb as a MAGA voter. Anyway, Jim Coogan will be here at 2 o'clock. Cannot wait for this. We are two geeks when it comes to Bill Barr, William Barr, Attorney General of the United States. And we'll be breaking down the greatest sins of Bill Barr. D, this is geek time. Geekdom. I admit it.
Oh,
I admit it.
Oh,
I stand accused. Jim did a great cheat sheet, ladies and gentlemen. He has I think there's 10 things on the list. Horrific thing that
a geek cheat sheet? A cheat sheet for geeks?
Yeah.
A geeky cheat sheet.
Yeah.
Wow.
Whoa, that's good. Working that, huh? Can we get a little sound thing going on that one? Get Vilma working on that. So he'll be talking about that. And is Bill Barr worse Then John Mitchell was Attorney General in the Nixon years. I don't know. That's a tough one. By the way, Bill Barr, he comes out against Trump on the election, comes out against Trump on appointing a special counsel to investigate Hunter Biden. So what? I don't know what game he's playing now. Barr, you were Trump's stooge for all these years. And now all of a sudden, you're a man of integrity? Who are you fooling? Oh, wait. 44th Ward voters. I like Bill Barr. I can just see all those 44th Ward voters gathering at Ann Sadler's. Bill Barr beats Tom Tunney for cinnamon rolls and coffee. All right, I think he probably fooled a few people in the 44th Ward who are also probably fooled by Lori Lightfoot as well. Anyway, we'll get into all that political talk. But before we do that, the young man from Alton, the man they call the doctor, with the news.
Thanks. How's it going, everybody? I'm Dennis. All right. Real quick, before we go any further, what? What's so funny? What?
Sorry, it just gets me every time when you do the, hi, everybody. I'm Dennis. I just think that's funny for some reason. I don't know why.
All right, real quick, before we go any further, our holiday lineup. No show on Thursday, Christmas Eve, and no show on Friday, Christmas Day. But Merry Christmas. There will be brand new interviews for you to download while we're away, like little stocking stuffers for your earballs.
I wrote the list. Remember my list?
Yeah. And I offended you deeply by calling
God.
your list chicken scratch.
Folks, I've been seeing a therapist ever since. He called it chicken scratch, ladies and gentlemen. The therapist. Breathe, Ben, breathe. You get over it. Chicken scratch.
And I'm sorry once again, I had no clue. Sorry I called your list chicken scratch.
I had the whole list, ladies and gentlemen. I took a picture of it. I sent it to Dennis. Dennis, look, I'm ahead of the game. What is this chicken scratch? Hey, I'll have you know that Eminem, the great Eminem, okay, when he writes his lyrics, it's chicken scratch too. And he writes it in a notebook.
Yeah, and he's a millionaire. What's
Yeah, I'm stuck in the attic looking at a porty potty. My name is Clarence.
Let's just stop right there with the rapping. Okay. We got some live stream chat going here. The Ben Joravsky Show movie. I guess we talked about that earlier. And yes. Ben, who would play the guy who fired you?
Oh, Pinhead?
Yeah, that's what Michael Girardi was wondering.
Who? One of the Three Stooges. Because he was a stooge. Actually, I like all the Three Stooges. So that's, I don't know, Shep. Shep was like the stooge that was like, But one of the Three Stooges, I'm just a stooge for the man.
Those guys died like a long time ago. How about like a current actor? Any ideas of a current actor, or do you just want to move on?
They remade the Three Stooges. You forget they remade the. Who was the actors?
Yeah, Will Sasso. I believe that feller from. I can't remember who the three were there. I know Will Sasso was Curly.
Who is like the actor who's like really dumb in a movie? That would be the guy. Okay. So I like going with the Three Stooges.
All right, let's do the local news here. We begin in Chicago, and we begin with Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Oh, good afternoon, Madam Mayor. No public event scheduled for Mayor Lightfoot, but don't worry, we have plenty to catch up on. More fallout from the unfortunate botched arrest or attempted arrest or raid, whatever the hell it was, of Miss Anjanette Young. Quick recap here, just so we're all on board. On Tuesday, CBS 2 Chicago released Chicago police body cam footage from 2019 of police officers going into the wrong apartment and arresting an innocent and naked Anjanette Young for over half an hour. Mayor Lightfoot said she learned about the botched police raid when we did last Tuesday, but we later learned that her lawyers tried to stop CBS from airing the video. So your lawyers knew about it and you didn't? So, yeah, that was a huge lie. Lightfoot knew about the whole thing back when it happened in February of 2019, and 2 days later, she came out and admitted it. It was awkward. So, here we are, 1 week later, and the mayor has a bit of a mess to clean up. And over the weekend, she began with step 1 of the cleanup plan. Step 1, frig off, Flesner. The following comes from the Chicago Sun-Times and Claire Proctor. Chicago's top lawyer, Mark Flesner, has resigned over the Ann Jeanette Young raid. Flesner sent law department employees a brief email announcing his resignation. And when Claire says brief, I tell you she means brief. We have the letter here. And you know, while resignation letters aren't known for having tons of positivity, this resignation letter from Flesner has to be the most unenthusiastic I've ever seen. By the way, it screams the mayor made me do this. Let's read this email real quick here. 1 second. All right. He writes, I have resigned as corporation counsel. I will work on a transition plan over the next few days. Best, Mark A. Flesner. That's it. In a statement issued Sunday afternoon, Lightfoot said she accepted Flesner's resignation effective immediately and said she was committed to a, quote, full review of everything that occurred surrounding this incident, will take corrective action where appropriate, and will hold people accountable. It says here, addressing the media a day after she received the resignation, Lightfoot announced that Celia Meza, the mayor's counsel and senior ethics advisor, would lead the law department on an interim basis. I hope she's good at lying. Mayor Lightfoot's office also confirmed Deputy Corporation Counsel Karen Jacobs and Director of Public Affairs Kathleen Fueger no longer work for the city. So that was step 1 here. Ben, what do you think of step 1 in the mayor's plan?
Well, step 1 of the mayor's plan is blame somebody else for something that you probably did. And I'm just going to go back, D. I just cannot let this moment pass. Every time we have this story, I'm going back to Mayor Lightfoot's statement. Okay, as in Mayor Lightfoot said it. It's in quotes. Today, I became aware, this is from last Tuesday, I will be reading this for the next 6 months, D. I have a feeling. Today, I became aware of an incident involving Miss Ann Jeanette Young from February 2019 before I became mayor, and I saw the video today for the first time. I had no knowledge of either until today. I had a very emotional reaction to what was depicted on the video, as I imagine that many people did, ... Since this matter is subject of litigation and an open COPA investigation, I will have no further comment. Well, she's done a lot of commenting, I'd like to point out, for someone who's having no further comment. It's still a case that's very much under investigation. It's still a subject of litigation, but she's got a lot to say about it all of a sudden. As in, don't blame me, blame Flesner. I just want to say this about Mark Flesner. I don't know the guy, never met the guy. He's a corporate lawyer. Lori Lightfoot was a corporate lawyer. She thought the best thing for the city of Chicago, the best legal brain, you can have all kinds of legal brain, a lot of smart lawyers in the city. Jim Coogan's a really smart lawyer. The guy who wrote my family will is a really smart lawyer. El Dragon, who comes on the show all the time to talk election politics, he's a real smart lawyer. A lot of smart lawyers in the city. I don't know. Taking a lawyer who's works for a corporate firm that largely defends, corporations, screw the little guy. Is that the kind of brain you want working in the legal department? Oh, wait. The lawyer herself, the mayor herself was such a lawyer. So forget I said anything, D. So yeah, Mayor Lori Lightfoot got herself in a big jam. It was hugely embarrassing. It was a disgrace, I would say. And so she is playing catch up ever since. Mark Flesner, who Lori Lightfoot decided was the most qualified attorney in all of Chicago to be the corporation counsel, and she stuck with him. She hired him, D, even though he lived in Northbrook. We have residency requirements. Right now, as I like to point out, there are investigators who work for the Board of Education. If they have a sense that a teacher who works in the public schools of Chicago, not a charter school, but who works in a real school in Chicago, a real CPS school, not a privately managed school, is not a resident, they investigate that person. Somehow or other, they didn't know that Flesner wasn't a resident. See no evil, hear no evil. Then when they were embarrassed with that revelation, they quickly, what did he had a condo in the South Loop or something that saved him. Then he had a pass, the little pass that enabled him to drive in the special only city workers and really clouded people get to drive lane that leads from the South Loop to downtown. I didn't even know the lane existed. That's
Of course you didn't know the lane existed.
It's like, wait a minute, you don't have to stay in traffic? No, there's a special lane that only people with clout get to drive down. It's like a 15-minute drive, but for them, it's a 2-minute drive or something like that. No traffic lights, no stuck behind a whole bunch of cars, zippity-doo-dah. He had the pass to get him in the lane. His punishment was he had to give up his pass. Oh, here's the pass, Mayor. But they kept him in as lawyer. Apparently, he's such a great lawyer. So now, all of a sudden, he's being fired. Can we just give a shout out to Gregory Pratt? He is the ace reporter for the Chicago Tribune. This dude has been all over this story. And he sent out a tweet on Sunday. And how do I know about that, D? You're going, Ben, how did you know? Yeah, that Gregory Pratt sent out a tweet. Ben, you're now following Twitter? Oh, my God. Are you turning into Maya? No. The answer is that Pat Whalen, friend of the show, sent me the tweet. So thank you, Pat. Pat's going to get a lot of love in today's show, by the way, D. This is just a little foreshadowing there. And here's what Pat Whalen sent to me, a tweet from Gregory Pratt. Quote, Chicago's top lawyer Mark Flessner has resigned his position amid controversy over the Anjanette Young raid. He said, quote, I'm resigning because of the firestorm around the whole tape thing. Flessner told me I'm being accused of trying to hide it, which is not true. So Flessner actually talked to Gregory Pratt. I urge everybody to check out Pratt's story. Basically, they're throwing him under the bus, as they say. They're blaming him for something that is clearly part of the policy of Lori Lightfoot. I've said this before. I'll say it again. Lori Lightfoot comes from corporate Chicago. She's a corporate defense lawyer. She is of the mindset that when you are representing your client, it's not like there's a good and evil. It's not like there's a right and there's a wrong. It's winning and losing, and you want to win. And in this case, you want to win by getting a judge to throw Anjanette Young's case out of court, her lawsuit out of court, rule against her, keep the public from seeing the tape so you can move ahead and limit your liability. And I will bet you $1 to a donut, young Dennis.
I love donuts.
Yeah, you sure do. That Flessner was following the general rules laid down by Lori Lightfoot. And now suddenly the rules changed, apparently, because of the embarrassing revelation on that tape. Dave Savini and Channel 2, they deserve a lot of credit. Bulldogs went to court to force the city to release that tape. So Flessner's paying the price. She's outraged. Lori Lightfoot's outraged. The man that she hired to be the corporation counsel. The man that she stood by when it turned out he didn't even live in Chicago. The man that she stood by when it turned out had this like magic pass that enabled to get him from the South Loop to downtown in 2 seconds. It's like Kid Flash. Flessner's sitting at his office. No problem.
Isn't it funny here? Lightfoot said she accepted Flessner's resignation effective immediately. Like she was just in the office like, oh, well, what do we have here? Oh, well, resign? Oh, come on now. What a surprise.
Oh, my God. You know, I'll say this. I know you have more to go on this, D, but the underlying assumption of all this machinations are that the voters of Chicago are really dumb. And they will believe this. That's the underlying notion. And, you know, it's really hard to argue that point, okay? And I know I've been really hard on voters in the 44th Ward who continually elect and then reelect Tom Tunney because they like his cinnamon rolls, no matter what he does. And I know I've been hard on the 44th Ward voters. And before that day, I was hard on Northwest Side voters. Remember the Northwest Side voters? Oh, let me see. I'm a public employee. My entire future as a geezer relies on getting a pension. I know what I'll do. I'll vote against a tax on the wealthiest people that would fortify my pension, thus exposing me to ruin as a geezer. Oh my God, my beloved co-citizens of Chicago. Why do you vote the way you vote? Sorry, D, I'm not going to make fun of MAGA at all this year.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
raising my hand.
Way to finally decide on that. What do we go to?
Probably
December
gonna break
22nd?
Probably going to break that oath within, I don't know, 10 minutes.
Well, absolutely. When Monroe Anderson comes on tomorrow, that's
Oh my
long
God. But come on, D. You think there's anyone? Yes, I'm going to answer my question. Do you think there's anybody in Chicago who's fooled by these machinations coming out of City Hall? Where Mayor Lori Lightfoot is pretending that Mark Flessner somehow or other violated the standards that she set up, even though he was probably following the rules that she set up? Yes, I do believe there are voters in Chicago. You know, like, oh, I really like how Mayor Lightfoot's handling this whole thing about the, they don't even know the lady's name, Anjanette Young. It's just a naked lady. I think she's done a really good job. Yeah, I think she's done a really good job. So yes, it is now bailout Mayor Lori Lightfoot time in the city of Chicago.
And what about this email from Flesner here? I mean, I've never heard seething on an email before, but I can hear it in this. I've resigned as corporation counsel. I'll work on a transition plan over the next few days. Boom, done. That's it.
Oh, wow, a transition plan. Like, what? What's the transition? Like, don't do what Lori tells you? I mean, what's he going to tell his successor to help her navigate the rough waters of City Hall? Just remember, folks, the mayor's always right and you're always wrong, even if you were doing what she told you, okay? That's what you need to know, all right? Dennis had a great line this morning. I'm going to give Dennis credit. It was his line. He goes, no, he was so nice. He said, Ben, you could use the line. I go, no, I got to give you credit. So he's saying, ordinary guy goes to work every day, and they go, what do you want me to do today, boss? Lift some boxes? No, I want you to lie. I want you to just go out and lie. That's kind of what it's like in the city of Chicago. No different, by the way, than Mayor Rahm. No different than Mayor Rahm. Oh, my God, when the Kwame McDonald tape, everybody's like, habita. Let's change what we...
Right?
Oh, habita.
I just feel like there's a bunch of people behind the scenes starting their sentences with, all right, here's what you do. Just a bunch of those people. Like, get out of here.
Yeah, here's what you do. First of all, apologize. Secondly, blame somebody else. Third of all, say you didn't do it and you'll never do it again. Fourth of all, fire some people. Fifth of all, I don't know, change the subject somehow. Can you talk? Anybody talk about the Bears? How about that Mitch Trubisky? Huh?
Beesky on the live stream chat says, damn, Joravsky, you now got me wanting to go check out these cinnamon rolls. Anyone know the password?
That could be I could actually be helping Tom Tunney. Well, my conversation about the cinnamon rolls and the cinnamon roll speaking, I think the password is a knock. It goes like this. And then the person who answers the door goes, ch-ch-ch-ch. How many cinnamon rolls does it take to fill a pan? 3. Open sesame. Yay! And you come in there and there's waitresses bringing coffee and people eating cinnamon rolls. Oh, and people playing the piano. Ding, 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 ding.
All right, so that was step 1 of Mayor Lightfoot's cleanup plan. Frig off, Flesner. Get your ass under that bus.
Poor Flesner.
On Monday, the City Council's Black Caucus called for creating a new committee to inspect and review civil litigation tied to the Chicago Police Department. Here's the quote from Alderwoman Leslie Hairston. Ben, of what ward?
Come on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Hairston said, quote, with the creation of the Committee on Litigation Review and Risk Management, we will make sure that we are reviewing the cases and the settlements with the actual attorneys that work those cases up and not a representative. We will work together collectively to do an in-depth review of the cases and the settlements that are presented before the City Council. We recognize that there are racial undertones of departments while considering settlements and causes of action, and we will make sure that we thoroughly question everybody and their intent.
All right, here's the problem. Here's the problem, ladies and gentlemen. I've said this before, I'll say it again. There's issues of liability. How much money is the city going to pay every time a police officer screws up you know? And that's essentially what Flessner and Lori Lightfoot were trying to limit. They could put that spin out. That was the position that the mayor was originally taking. Then she saw the video. No, let me strike that. It's not like then she saw the video and she said, oh my God. Then she saw the headlines and the coverage. And then she said, oh my God. So, I mean, it was the same thing with the Laquan McDonald tape. They buried that, one, because Rahm stupidly thought it would lead automatically to his defeat at the polls. Oh, God forbid you do the right thing. See, that's what I'm saying, folks. Everybody thinks, Ben, don't shame the voters. Ben, you have such a low attitude and opinion about voters. My opinion of the voters is generally higher, as low as it is. It's higher than Rahm or Lori Lightfoot or any elected official's view. They think the voters are so stupid that if you fess up to something that went wrong, they will turn against you. I've said it from the get-go. Had Rahm Emanuel owned up to what went down with the Laquan McDonald shooting at the time it went down, he would have been heralded throughout the city for a guy who did the right thing. Instead, what did he do? He tried to cut a deal to shut up the family, give them $5 million to buy their silence, then bury the tape and pretend like the whole thing didn't happen. And the same freaking thing went down with Anjanette Young. Same thing. But the working assumption of the politicians is that the people in the city of Chicago are so stupid that if they're subjected to, if they see some obvious example of an outrage, they'll blame the mayor. So don't say I am shaming voters and I have a low estimation of voters. I think I have actually a higher estimation of voters in the city of Chicago than the people the voters elect, who think the voters are so stupid they can get away with anything year after year and they will get reelected. And by the way, largely, folks, that's true. So going back to the proposal that you have a committee to investigate every single lawsuit, I got to think about that, D. I think it sounds pretty good. There's a lot of lawsuits filed against the city. That's a lot of time. That committee's going to be people, trip on the sidewalk outside of City Hall, boom, file a lawsuit against the city. So there's a lot of lawsuits that are filed against the city, and a lot of them probably aren't very, substantive. But this one was. This one really was. And the city responded. Mayor Lori Lightfoot leading the charge by burying it, fighting it, doing everything the city could to keep us from seeing that videotape and keep Anjanette Young from receiving some kind of payout. So anyway, D, good luck, Alderwoman Hairston, with that proposal. I'm not quite sure that's even realistic. There's so many lawsuits filed against the city.
Well, Hairston and other aldermen weighed in, and we are in this cleanup strategy. So the mayor hears you loud and clear. We're on to step 2 in the mayor's cleanup strategy. Desk duty. On Monday, Lightfoot announced that the Chicago police officers who were involved in the botched 2019 raid on Anjanette Young's home have all been assigned to a police officer's worst nightmare. Or at least this is what I've learned in literally every movie about a rough and tumble cop who refuses to go by the rules and do things his way. Desk duty. Seen it a million times. No one likes it. Lightfoot said Chicago Police Superintendent David Brown ordered the officers to be taken off the street as the Civilian Office of Police Accountability continues its inquiry. COPA Chief Administrator Sydney Roberts said during the Chicago Police Board meeting last week that she expected the investigation to conclude early next year.
By the way, Dee, I'm going to have to respectfully disagree with you. Well, actually, I'm not speaking for anyone other than myself. Desk duty doesn't sound bad. You know?
You're right, yeah. But I mean, you watch a movie about a cop, oh my God, that's the worst thing. Damn it.
I understand. You know, it's a macho world. Desk duty. I want to be out busting heads, solving crimes, harassing naked women. But I don't know. Desk duty sounds pretty good to me. Well, just file these papers here. You know. Anyway, yeah, wow. Just I saw that deal. Oh, now they're in desk duty. We went from no further comment because the matter is a subject of litigation to Flessner's fired and the cops are on desk duty. And of course, the mayor knew nothing about it, D. Nothing. Wow, didn't know anything about it. Now I'm outraged. So yeah, they're probably. What do you think, D? What are the odds they fire those cops? What are your thoughts?
Well, it just depends on how this week plays out. If nobody talks about it, I guess they're good, right? But if more people just keep bringing it up, then
we'll get to the bottom of this. I mean, presumably there will be investigation. The city doesn't like investigations. There's really never been an investigation of Laquan McDonald A to Z. There was there was the trial of Jason Van Dyke, but that was really all about whether he was, criminally liable, for the murder of Laquan McDonald. It really didn't go from take the deep dive and like who knew what and when. I've talked about this. Popcorn Gate. Remember Popcorn Gate?
I love popcorn. Almost as much as donuts.
Where the police officer was sitting in Congressman Bobby Rush's office during the unrest. Was it end of May, early June? Mm-hmm. And Bobby Rush said, "How dare you?" And remember, Lori Lightfoot was outraged, I tell you. How dare you? And I'm like, can we have an investigation? Were the cops given the green light to sit in the office? I mean, we're getting an indication, folks, that you can't always believe the outrage of your public officials. I hate to break this to you. I know a lot of you out there if you really believe it, but let's talk about the arrest that took place outside of Trump Tower, or that first weekend in May after George Floyd's murder. Have there been any investigations into what the police strategy was? What about the police strategy in general during those first few days of unrest? Like, whose idea was it to put the bridges up and put the cops downtown around Trump Tower? That's what Raylo was in the argument with Lori Lightfoot, Alderman Ray Lopez, about. No investigation for that. So the city is like, they do what they can to protect the mayor, protect powerful aldermen, and then when they think the public's attention has been successfully diverted, back to business as usual. So I don't know if these cops, clearly somebody made a huge mistake. That's putting it mildly. What a botched process. The whole thing was horrific. It didn't seem like there was any double checking to see whether they had the right address. And then it was immediately obvious, if you're watching the tape, that they had busted into the wrong house. And Anjanette Young, who was standing there naked, was not a criminal, and yet they played it out. They played it out. Even after they allowed her to put a shirt on, they took her handcuffs off to put the shirt on, then they put the cuffs back on. So, yes, there was horrifically handled, but we're just gonna stop with these. What are the rules? What are the rules that you follow on such matters? So I doubt, D, that we will see much investigation about this. It's they may throw these cops under the bus, but you think it's going to go up the top? You think it's going to go all the way to the mayor's office? If it's like most things in Chicago, no, we'll end it there with Flessner. That's good enough. Sorry, Flessner.
It's like when regular people find out the jig is up. You know what I mean? It makes you wonder how much has gone down that people don't know about.
Yes. Absolutely.
All right, so that's the latest here on Mayor Lightfoot and the case of Anjanette Young. Mayor, anything you'd like to say before we move on?
I won't just turn the car around.
Okay.
I'm going to shut it off.
Really?
I'm going to kick you out.
What?
And I'm going to make you walk home.
Good Lord.
Oh, my God. Word of warning to whoever replaces Flessner. Remember this. The mayor's always right. And when the shit hits the fan, you're wrong. Got that? That's all you need to know. You don't even have to go to law school to know that. Okay? That's all you need. One more time, everybody. The mayor's always right, and when the shit hits the fan, you're wrong. All right, there you go.
And we brought this up on Friday, the email exchanges that the mayor had with Flessner and others regarding the release of the Anjanette Young video and the attempt to block said release. It's eventually going to be available to the public. The question is when? When will it be available? Now, because our host has lived in Chicago for an eternity, he's a little jaded about all this, but he's got a great point. The release of the Anjanette Young video. Ben, when do you say that's coming out? Or I'm sorry, the email exchange. Yes.
All right. So let me set this up. This is, by the way, this is what reporters are talking about right now. So there's a whole bunch of emails that exist in the universe between various city officials regarding the city's attitude and its policy toward Anjanette Young and its legal strategies. And none of them have been released yet, but the mayor has said, right, this is what she's saying today, that she's going to make sure that they're all released. And right now, the city's preparing them. Okay, now, but it just so happens that this whole incident is exploded to the surface as we head toward the Christmas holidays and the New Year's holidays. So what reporters are asking themselves, will the mayor dump those emails on them on Christmas Eve, or will she dump them on New Year's Eve? Either way, it's two middle fingers high to the reporters of Chicago who won't be with their families on Christmas Eve or New Year's Eve or Christmas Day or New Year's Day. No, they'll be sifting through emails. That'll teach you to ask me tough questions, Gregory Pratt. Hope you enjoy your Christmas. Mick Dumke will be on the show later today. We'll be doing an interview to be dropped over the Christmas holidays, and I'll ask him the over-under. Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. Or will the mayor prove me wrong and go, you know what? There really is no reason to rush it out on Christmas Eve, just other than to really screw reporters. Oh, so I'll hold off until January 5th when the holidays are over. The other reason they do the dump on Christmas Eve, or the Laquan McDonald emails, by the way. Lori would have learned this from Rahm. He dropped the Laquan McDonald emails on Thanksgiving Eve. Enjoy your turkey. No, I think enjoy your time with your family. I actually think it was Thanksgiving Day. I can't remember. Mick Dumke will remember. He always remembers things like that. It was a way to screw over reporters, obviously. So the other reason they do that, if you drop the emails at Christmas Eve, follow me on the legal strategy here, folks, or the PR strategy. That means the reporters, not only do you screw over the reporters and let them know how much contempt you have for them, but the story will get released on Christmas Day. And who will be paying attention? Me, Dennis, Jay Marie, the listeners of the Ben Joravsky Show, Michael Girardi, political geeks. That's it. Your average Chicago voter won't be paying attention. So it's a twofer, D.
Yeah.
Drop those emails on a holiday. 2 for 1. You stick it to the reporters, let them know how much you can't stand them. And 2, you bury it a little more. And then you claim later, it was very open and transparent. Yeah, by the way, and the other thing is, how many really good emails are getting burned right now? You know what I mean? Metaphorically, I don't know if you can literally burn an email. Remember, the Patrick Buchanan advised Nixon to burn the tapes. So it's like the updated Mark Zuckerberg 21st century version of that. You know what I'm saying? Burn the emails.
Yeah, my money is on 11:59 on New Year's Eve as we're all counting down the new year.
Here they come.
5,
Gregory Pratt.
4, 3. Oh my God, the mayor just released the emails. 2, 1, and then.
He's reported Gregory Pratt. Sorry, honey, I can't celebrate New Year's. I got to look at these emails. And they're all redacted, by the way. Like big black markings through. That's what's going on right now. Here's what's going on in City Hall right now. They got the emails out. Okay, here we go. And yeah.
Oh, nice.
Wait,
was that
emails.
You or is that an actual?
Oh, was that me doing? Was that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Come on, I'm good, but I'm not that good. Here we go. Yeah, it's reporters don't think they like you, okay? You know what I mean? You don't think they like you for 1 minute. They're going to dump those emails. I'm going to dump those emails on you on Christmas Eve, make you miss your family. You know? No, maybe. You know what, D? I could be wrong. Could be mid-January. You know, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'll be happy to go. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for releasing the emails at a time when reporters could, you know, go through them without upsetting their holidays, and also when people would be paying attention. Thank you. So I hope that happens, D, and then I will say thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Live stream chat. Weigh in. What do you think? What's the over-under here? When do you think Lightfoot's releasing these emails? We'd love to hear from you, and maybe we will read your comments on the program. All right, moving on to the statewide news. Hey, here's something we haven't heard in a while. No public events scheduled for our Illinois Governor, J.B. Pritzker.
Don't believe me? Well, consider these facts.
We believe you. Please, calm down. On Friday, Pritzker announced that he will be putting his daily COVID-19 updates on hold for the moment. So we have no update here. But instead of just moving on to something else, Ben, what do you say we give the time allotted for our governor to some of the other Democrats in Illinois? After all, it is the season of sharing. You know what I mean?
That sounds like a plan to me.
All right, good. Ben, need a last-minute holiday gift? How about giving to a Bright Start College savings account? You got that $600 coming up, you know what I mean? Here's State Treasurer Michael Frericks to tell you more about it.
Through our Gifted program, any individual can contribute to a friend or a family member's Bright Start 529 account. We encourage them to go to IllinoisTreasurer.gov to spread some holiday spirit.
Okay, not as entertaining as a Governor Pritzker COVID-19 update. I think that may have been was that Michael Frericks or an operator? I don't know.
Through our Gifted program, any individual can contribute to a...
Sounds like an operator. So there's an idea, Ben. Just helping you out.
That's a good idea.
All right, and here's actual news. A bill was just filed to allow Illinois lawmakers to conduct legislative business and vote remotely. Hey, Representative Ann Williams, tell us a little more about that.
I think most people agree that the legislature meets better and we're more effective when we can be face-to-face and in person in the Capitol. That's the way it's supposed to be. That's how we want to meet. But there are some situations, like the one we're facing now, that is going to be impossible. And during those times, we have to find a way to continue on.
Oh, boy, not as entertaining as a J.B. Pritzker COVID-19 update. J.B. Pritzker, we miss you already, buddy.
The enemy is you.
Oh, or on second thought. Now, we'll end it out here with one more story. And for those who have fallen in love with 2020's latest craze, bizarre stories about COVID-19. If you can't get enough, don't worry, we have you covered. Because an Illinois woman who ordered flags for her grandmother's garden got a surprise when the package arrived. Someone's apparent COVID-19 test specimen. Ben, you wanted to talk about this, did you not?
Yeah, this was one of the most bizarre stories. And hold on, let me find it in my beloved bright one. I actually read it online and sent it to you. People should hear. Hold on, just turning the pages of my beloved bright one. A couple stories I want to talk about, D, as I see but don't let me get through this without the red line story. All right, writing that down, red line story. And also, I want to follow up a little bit on the Ann Williams story. But anyway, Illinois woman finds apparent COVID test in Kohl's package. Janet Hill, the chief operating officer at the Rock Island County Health Department, told the AP that she picked up the biohazard bag over the weekend and that it appeared to contain a used nasal swab and identifying information of a person from Virginia. So a woman ordered some gift, padded envelope containing the flag she'd ordered weeks ago from Kohl's, and the nasal swab was in it. God. I mean, that is so. I've been telling everybody about that story. This is really weird. People are like, yeah, why do you care? That's generally the people. Why do you care? I don't know. It's the weirdest story I ever heard, D. Like, I would like to see an investigation into this. You know, that and why were all those police officers surrounding Trump Tower? Troy LaRaviere came on the show, remember, and talked about how he's arrested. Hey, we could do a joint city council investigation. The Kohl's package. the most bizarre story of the weekend, how that nasal swab ended up in that packet, I will never know. Dee, I just want to say Ann Williams is my state rep. So here, Ann Williams, State Representative Ann Williams. And she and Rob Martwick, State Senator Rob Martwick, good friend of the show, have teamed up to propose legislation. Just so you know, folks, this is widely known as the Pat Whalen bill. So named for Pat Whalen, our good friend and actor, star of the FanDuel commercial, and helps me out with Twitter. And the reason it's called the Pat Whalen bill is because when I was going on and on about why don't you just have virtual meetings, Pat Whalen said, Ben, it's against the law. And I didn't believe him. And I did the deep dive and had Martwick on. And yes, bizarre. It's against the law to meet in any other way for the state legislature than in person. They attempted to pass a bill earlier this year that it would allow the state reps and the state senators to meet virtually, just like the city council does. But that bill died in the House. I think one vote killed it. Lord knows why it died. Probably because Michael Joseph Madigan didn't want it to pass or didn't care if it passed. And so he didn't really lift a finger to get it to pass. You know, and I can see why. It's kind of works to his advantage. It's just if the legislature can't meet, then they can't be held accountable for the bills that they don't pass. People get more urgent in their desire to pass bills. He becomes a more powerful and influential person, Michael Madigan. So this is kind of how he runs the State House. So now he's going to let Ann Williams introduce legislation. We'll know if they got to meet to pass the bill. So, you know, will he allow them to meet to pass this bill? I don't know. It's a joke, ladies and gentlemen. The way politics happens in the state of Illinois is largely a joke. I admit it, been watching it for a long time. We're in the middle of a pandemic. You talk about the ultimate in mixed messages, D. They're saying, on one hand, you got Pritzker, stay at home, don't go out. It's very dangerous. You don't want to infect anybody. The one time they get together, oh boy, big Darren Bailey walks out, you know, because he doesn't believe. I mean, he walks into the meeting without a mask because he doesn't believe that there's a real legitimate pandemic. They make this big deal where they vote to kick him out of the meeting, and he's ushered out because he doesn't wear a mask. But meanwhile, no, we're not going to have passed legislation that would enable us to have virtual meetings. You know, then all the papers write editorials. We need this legislation. And they implore Madigan to, you know, let the legislation pass. And so finally, when his speakership allows the legislation to pass, everybody thanks him for it. What a great leader. That's how it goes in the state of Illinois, ladies and gentlemen. And meanwhile, it's not a concerted effort by the people in the state of Illinois, the legislators in the state of Illinois from both parties to implore Congress, the Senate, the House, and the White House to help Illinois. Can't even get a meeting together. Such a joke, ladies and gentlemen, on so many fronts. So yeah, it's part of the game. Ann Williams and Rob Martwick, God bless them, will introduce the legislation. They're going to have a meeting to see if they can pass it. I don't know if it'll pass. Probably won't. Because it's better to have a meeting in person. Then they're all going to say, oh, Ben, don't worry. We're all safe. We're like 10 feet apart from each other. So anyway, D, yeah, that's our state. That's our state in action. And mixed message continue as we head out of 2020.
And those updates, of course, brought to you by Kohl's.
That's correct.
No, it's not.
The nose swab and Cole, man, isn't that funny? If you open up oh, honey, I got a package. Oh my God. At least it was in a plastic bag. That's good news, right? You know? How did it get there? I really do hope they have an investigation. Like, what's the connection? By the way, the other big story is about how Putin's agents, kind of a similar thing, poisoned. I know there's probably nobody who cares about this story, but Putin's agents poisoned a dissident lawmaker They put the somehow or other they got the poisonous toxins. They put it in his underwear. Did you see this one day? Some kind of overlap with the Coles thing. Yeah, that was revealed over the weekend. A lot of interesting news revealed over the weekend. I spent a lot of time reading my phone, each new breaking news item.
And that's our local news, guys. We'll try to weigh in with more here after our interview with Ace Attorney, Legal, Jim Coogan, with the back half. Remember, you can download previous Ben Joravsky shows, Benny J bonus interviews, and so much more at the Chicago Reader website or wherever else you download your favorite podcasts. No show Christmas Eve, no show Christmas Day. Also, no show New Year's Eve, no show New Year's Day. But you will have interviews available to download, brand new interviews. So go check those out, Chicago Reader website, wherever else you download your favorite podcast. Follow us online at Benny J Show, BENNY, the letter J Show, on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can always send us an email, bennyjshow@gmail.com. And you can leave us a voicemail. That's right. We have a phone number, 708-658-4788. The number again, 708-658-4788. And we did get a call right before the show started. Ben, we have some Chicago Bulls trivia for you after our interview with Jim Coogan. How about that, huh? Are you there? Hello? Ben?
Bull season starts on Wednesday. I turned the mic off because the train went by, D, and then I forgot to turn it back on. Maybe we can edit that out when we do the podcast. He never edits it out, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, can I just tell you that? A little joke he plays.
All right, give me a countdown. Give me a countdown and start over, and I'll edit that out, okay?
Oh, I kind of like it having it. Okay, I'll do the countdown. By the way, he keeps the countdowns in too. 1, 2, 3. By the way, bull season starts on Wednesday, and I'm taking predictions from many of my friends and show participants on how many games the Bulls will win this year. So Dennis, I'm going to put you, put your neck on the line here. How many games will my beloved Chicago Bulls win this year? Remember, it's a shorter season. There's only 72 games. Go ahead. How many games will the Bulls win? I'm writing this down.
72 games. So you take that, carry the 1. 22.
Oh, my God. You're the lowest. You have the lowest. I mean, you're not literally like the lowest of all human beings. You're a great guy.
Yeah, when it comes to this Bulls coverage, I'm just going to lean in on the grumpy guy coverage.
He did already. I don't understand why they took Patrick Williams.
In fact, 20 wins.
Great. How many?
20.
20. Okay, got it. You're even worse. Juwan Hall, who hates the Bulls. Okay, he predicted more wins than you, D. Just saying.
Well, his loss, my gain.
Yes, the winner will get. I haven't figured out what the winner's going to get. We're working on that.
All right, but Bulls trivia is going to be coming up. Jim sent us some questions for Ben, and this time around, all right, unlike last time, we got a plan. He sent me the answers via email, so I'll have the answers. Oh, it's going to be a great time, everybody. Don't go anywhere. When we come back, we're going to be talking with Jim Coogan, and until then, boy, I tell you, this Ricky Hendon song, man, I can't get it out of my head. It was in my head all weekend. Been listening to it. He's got a Christmas jam. Also, I looked online. Rich Miller posted this, Ben. Ricky Hendon also has a Corona song. Did you know this?
Did he send that to us?
I don't think so, but I found it on Capitol Facts. Maybe we'll play it this week sometime.
All right.
But here we go, everybody. Ricky Hendon, Be My Christmas. Don't go anywhere. It's the Ben Joravsky Show, live from my apartment in Ben's attic.
Baby, please come to me. Let me be your fantasy. Baby, like the tree, I will be all that you need.
Don't believe me?
Unwrap you underneath the mistletoe. We can sip some wine, kiss you from head to toe.
Don't believe me?
Baby, don't you ever let me go. I want you to know.
Don't believe me?
Wishing you'd be my boo. Can you please be my prince?
The enemy is you.
Arms around me. Wishing please can you be Step this way. Come on, baby, ride with me in my sleigh. Tonight we're gonna party, girl. It's time to play. And you gon' do it on Christmas Day and go all the way.
Don't believe
Merry
me?
Christmas, baby. Merry 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 Christmas, baby. Feliz Navidad, baby. Feliz Navidad. Wishing you be my boo. Can you please be my Christmas? Be my Christmas, baby. Be my Christmas, baby. Wishing please, can you be with me, baby, on this cruise? I got something very nice for you, and got your shorty baby too. My stuff, right here.
Don't believe me?
Your stuff, my stuff, right here.
Don't believe me?
We want some gifts. Gotta have some gifts.
I won't just turn the car around.
We want some gifts. Gotta have some gifts.
Don't believe me? Don't believe me? The enemy is you.
Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to party on Christmas Day. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to party on Christmas Day. Christmas, everybody! Be my boo, please be my Christmas.
Best concert? We had Steve Miller Band and the Eagles.
Christmas wish. Said I gave me your wristband. Come wrap your arms around me.
I won't just turn the car around. I'm going to shut it off. I'm going to kick you out, and I'm going to make you walk home.
Hour number 2 of your Ben Joravsky Show is brought to you by the Chicago Reader and the Chicago Federation of Labor. Benny J, take it away.
For the last couple of years, Jim Coogan has been a regular guest on the show from Dwyer and Coogan, Ace Attorney Jim Coogan, as we like to say, and I'm trying to explain, I always say, how could this possibly be legal as we talk about various miscarriages of justice that are apparently perfectly legal. And Jim, you've become a specialist, you're our show specialist on the interesting machinations of one William Barr, the Attorney General. So I thought it'd be a good idea to close down the year by going through a list of sort of Bill Barr's greatest hits, his greatest sins as Attorney General. So you up for that?
Yeah. Hey, Ben, nothing says the holidays and warming everyone's hearts like the ways that Bill Barr's influence has changed our perceptions of justice in America, right?
Absolutely. Nothing like Christmas. All families should have their Christmas meal talking about Bill Barr's sins. By the way, so I'm really, a part of me, I didn't tell you I would do this, but we spent so much of the day talking about, before I make the transit into Barr, I got to ask you your thoughts on what's going down with Mayor Lori Lightfoot and the way Mark Flessner, the city's corporation counsel, stepped down. You're a plaintiff's lawyer. So you make your living suing corporations, essentially, on behalf of individuals. To me, when I saw the reaction that Lori Lightfoot had, I've said this on the show many times, to Anjanette Young's lawsuit, it just seemed like your classic, traditional, corporate defense lawyer tactic. Just undercut the plaintiff, bury them under all kinds of paper so that they lose steam, jack up their legal bills, just sap them of their will to continue, and then they'll capitulate. Or a judge will eventually throw the case out. Now she's sobbing and swearing up and down that she didn't know anything about it, and blah, blah, blah. But Jim, it seemed to me 101 out of the playbook. Am I misinterpreting this thing, or what's your thoughts?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's a fair interpretation. You have to understand that in my experience, and this is not just with my own cases, but in everything I've ever observed in this business, it really doesn't matter how meritorious or how clear-cut a violation of whether it's injury law, causing somebody's injury, or in this case, it's more of a civil rights, but still, somebody suing for damages to the person because of the improper execution of the laws or improper action while under the color of law, which is what the officers were. You could find me the most clear-cut set of facts in the world, and I could find you a press release or an initial statement or something from the company, its chief legal counsel, or their defense attorney that is dismissive or deriding of something about the plaintiff's case. And that same case may settle a year later or go to trial and be vindicated with a gigantic verdict. But somewhere along the way, there was some kind of dismissal that the claim was without merit, that the plaintiff was wrong in bringing it, that, oh, well, look at all these other things that the plaintiff didn't do or did do, or no matter how innocent they might be. And listen, it's one of the principles of law that a plaintiff, if they are somehow contributory to the thing that happened to them to cause an injury, that can impact whether or not they can recover at all. But unless there's something that they're going to spring on all of us, I cannot really fathom what that would be in this poor woman's case.
Yeah, absolutely. And yet the position of the city was, the city did nothing wrong. Let's bury her. But all right, we'll move on from that one because I could probably go on for another half hour about that case. Let's get back to Barr. I have a list, a cheat sheet that you sent me. You did a great job. We'll just take it from. I don't know if this is meant to be in any kind of order, or was it stuff that just popped into your head about things that Bill Barr did? That I don't know if the order suggests that one, like an ascending order from not so bad to horrible, or but we'll just take it point by point. And the number one on the list is history as unitary executive proponent and cover-up general, a nickname from the great New York Times columnist, conservative columnist from the 90s and the olds, William Safire. So get into that. History of unitary executive proponent. What do you mean by that?
And let's note that William Safire was a conservative political columnist. Okay, this was a nickname that he came up with. But I don't remember if I did it specifically to be flowing in a particular order, but that concept frames everything about what the Justice Department has been. And I'm not talking about with respect to most of their regular criminal prosecutions or their civil defense, but just as it relates to the president and the things that Bill Barr has done with respect to the president. Because we're talking about an organization that has all kinds of other functions that I don't think have been materially impacted, or for the most part, materially impacted by the way that Bill Barr has done his job, or the way even that Jeff Sessions did his job in his tenure. Most of this relates to how they've dealt with and acted as either running interference with or just fully acting like the defense attorneys for the president, which is not in the remit of the attorney general. But the notion that Bill Barr believes very strongly in this unitary executive theory is what makes the rest of this happen. What I mean by that is Barr has a very strong belief in basically the maximalist, widest berth of power for the president. I mean, if he had his druthers, the president's power would essentially be unchecked. Wouldn't be checked by the courts, wouldn't be checked by Congress in any way that wasn't explicitly prescribed in the Constitution. The president would be able to destroy any documents that they wanted to, initiate any investigations that they wanted to, shut down any investigations that they wanted to. And that's just with respect to legal things. I mean, his expansive view of presidential power includes anything and everything, really. I mean, and that's why the rest of this happens. Every other thing that Bill Barr has done in the service of Donald Trump, or to insulate the Donald Trump White House from any legal liability or some of the possible fallout that could have happened during impeachment. We'll get to that. All of these things are because he believes that, and I guess I should probably qualify this, a Republican president should have any and all power that they want. That's been his fundamental viewpoint from the beginning. So that's why it goes all the way back to in 1991 to 92, when he was working in the same position for Dad Bush, George H.W. Bush, his administration lasting from 1989 through, it's been about 28 years. It was Christmas of 1992 was when Bill Barr famously advised Bush on what he should do to get rid of the wolves that were at his door, because he was implicated in Iran-Contra in a wide-ranging investigation that had been going on for 6 long years up to that point. Lawrence Walsh was the special counsel appointed to investigate whether or not people in the Reagan White House broke the law. And they were very specifically and pointedly looking for George H.W. Bush's journal, because it would have had information in there that indicated his involvement with a very overtly illegal operation that was being run out of the White House. There'd already been 4 convictions, and there was a trial that was supposed to begin in January for another, let's call it co-conspirator. So when Bush looked for advice, and he asked Barr, who was his Attorney General at the time, Barr said, pardon everybody that you have to pardon, and that's the way that you'll make sure that you don't get investigated and you shut this whole thing down, because then once you can shut down the co-conspirators, nobody's going to testify against Bush. And the Department of Justice or the special counsel would lose all his leverage. So that's
Jim,
where Sapphire came up with the term from.
Yeah, and it's really that was really well neatly summed up. I'm very skeptical when it comes to judicial philosophies, because as we've had this exchange in many instances on the show, I generally believe a judge or a lawyer comes up with a legal philosophy in order to support whatever outcome he wants, political outcome he wants. I was really surprised, for instance, that they couldn't get more than 2 judges of the Supreme Court to bite on that cockamamie lawsuit out of Texas. They did get, let's not forget, Alito and Clarence Thomas did make a comment that they would be willing to hear the case, not that they were going to issue and had decided what their position would be. So I don't believe them when they say that they have an underlying philosophy. That said, is there an underlying legal philosophy or legal theory that would support Barr's unitary view of the world, or is it just something he concocts to save the neck of the president that he is representing, even though as Attorney General, he's not supposed to be representing him? Go ahead.
Well, I mean, you can test it by examining whether or not he believes the same to be true when there's a Democrat in the White House. So, I don't know exactly what, he's never been in a position to do something about that, where he was either investigating a Democratic president because he thought that they overstepped their power, or, for example, if he had worked as a state attorney general, if we had evidence that he'd had several times instances where he'd sued the Obama presidency or some agency as part of the Obama White House for abuse of their power in an expansive way, that might undermine the notion that this is really an actual philosophy about how the Constitution should be interpreted, rather than just a justification for his political views. But ultimately, you can trace back this concept that the presidency should be more powerful all the way back to the Federalist Papers. I mean, that was one of the arguments that was at the foundation of the Constitution, as what we rebelled and left England over the question of how much of a tyrant the king could be and whether they were held accountable under the law. That was one of the animating forces to ignite the revolution in the first place. So that was the side of the group that were part of the Constitutional Convention that wanted to put restraints and checks and balances on the president would have argued against Bill Barr's interpretation. But there were definitely folks who were in favor of a stronger president, in favor of a wider amount of power under the presidency. And, the interesting thing that's happened over the years, as you know, Ben, is there have been Democratic presidents like FDR, who in their position as president have greatly expanded the powers of the presidency. I guess in FDR's instance, you might say he thought it was in the best interest of the country and not necessarily because he personally was trying to abuse the law or abuse the powers of his office. There are definitely economists who would argue that we wouldn't have gotten out of the Great Depression the way we did if it wasn't for the expansion of federal jobs programs and the expansion of the administrative state. That was all looking at the presidency as something bigger. And, so this isn't limited just to guys like Bill Barr, but generally speaking, he's also been he has excused obvious breaking of the law in service of this theory, like what we talked about with George H.W. Bush or with some of these examples with Donald Trump, where it really has nothing to do with the operation of the office, but rather excuses to protect the people in the office.
Yeah, we'll move on the list, but I just, to your last point, you see it on the local level and the state level, the inconsistency all the time, because right now here in Illinois, we have Republicans going to court calling J.B. Pritzker a tyrant for his executive orders to try to protect the state from the virus, from COVID-19, the spread of COVID-19. And they say he's a tyrant. He overextended his powers and his authority. And he did not give proper respect to the legislative process and the separation of government. So yes, your point as to the inconsistent application of this principle is on hand right now in the states of Michigan, Illinois, and Wisconsin. And I'm waiting for Bill Barr to weigh in on behalf of Governor J.B. Pritzker. And I'm not holding my breath. All right, we'll move on the list. This one is something I've talked a lot about on this show and in my reader columns. Involved the Department of Justice in the E. Jean Carroll defamation rape case against President Trump. Pretty blatant politicalization of the Justice Department, in my humble opinion. What's your thoughts?
Well, there you have a private lawsuit for defamation against the individual Donald Trump. And very simply, and I think anybody listening to this, you don't have to have a legal background to understand the idea that just because you're an office holder and just because you might be the president of the United States does not mean that you're entitled to a government defense of lawsuits against you as a private citizen. If you do something in your official capacity and you're being sued by the Illinois Attorney General or by some environmental group or by some other advocacy group who is suing you for things that you're doing as official acts, well, then it's naturally the position of the Department of Justice to step in and to defend those cases. That's what they do. Administrative lawsuits over the application of the law in different parts of the immigration law or whatever else it might be. But here we had a case where E. Jean Carroll has alleged that she was sexually assaulted and raped by Donald Trump. And since that time, Trump has defamed her in her allegations. Allegedly, he has defamed her by saying that she's making all of it up and that she's a liar. And so she sued him. Now, normally that would mean that that's got nothing to do with the presidency. I mean, the alleged sexual misconduct happened years ago, long before Trump was president. And so therefore, it wouldn't have anything to do with any acts that he took as an official. The Barr justification was that because Trump made the comments about E. Jean Carroll that she says are defamatory, that somehow he should therefore inject the Justice Department into this. So Trump already had his own private lawyers defending this case, but Barr sought to enter an appearance in the case and then was seeking under basically some of the administrative and procedural rules that would govern the case, that the case would be removed from that court and brought into federal court out of the state court where it was presently pending. So that was rejected. Mm-hmm. But just the notion that the Barr Justice Department tried to do it was novel. This kind of thing hadn't been done before and arguably should never have been done because it's ultimately these kinds of things, they take away from the reputation and the integrity of the Justice Department, because if they're seen as just carrying water for the president, then they're not looked at as objective arbiters of the law prosecuting cases that should be prosecuted and defending cases against the government as they should be defended.
Yes, this was very much a moment in his tenure as Attorney General where Barr was carrying water for the president. And my guess is that once Biden takes control of the presidency, the Justice Department will pull back on its decision to defend Donald Trump. I cannot imagine in a million years, Jim Coogan, the Biden having his Justice Department, or the Attorney General that he appoints, I should say, having the Department of Justice defending Donald Trump, and then that case will proceed and let the chips fall where they may. This one we talked so much about, Jim, and it seems like ancient history, but it was such an important part of the Trump presidency. The undermined Mueller report with a dishonest mischaracterization. He successfully, Bill Barr, undercut the Mueller report. There's been a book written about it, which I've been keep telling you, Jim, I intend to read. One of the lawyers for Mueller wrote a book, which it's got great reviews. I'm on a waiting list at the public library to get a copy of it. But talk a little bit about him undercutting the Mueller report.
Yeah, I think you're talking about Andrew Weissman's book, right?
Yes, Andrew Weissman's book. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, look, ultimately, whether or not he had a political reason to disagree with the findings that the report ultimately made, the Attorney General has no business stepping in front of an official United States government investigation into the serious matters that Robert Mueller and his special counsel's office was investigating, to make a press release that would forever neuter the impact that the actual report would have once it was released. So, because of the nature of the powers of the Attorney General, Bill Barr had a lot of control over what was released to the public. He was the one who ultimately got to determine and did decide to release the rest of the report, even with the redactions that were in there. But before he released it, as people might remember, I think it was on a Friday afternoon, there was word that the report was complete. And here comes Barr with a 1.5-page letter outlining what he I think used the term principal conclusions of the report, that there was no Russian involvement and that there wasn't sufficient there wasn't any evidence of the Trump administration and the White House covering up that involvement, which is blatantly false. That characterization is just false. If you look at the report itself, you and my law partner, Pat Dwyer, are two of the few people I know who have tried to read the entire thing, or maybe both. He has. I think you have too. But you don't need to read the whole report to know that that's false.
Yeah.
The executive summaries that are contained, just the headlines of the chapters, outline exactly what is contained therein. A lot of details that don't necessarily matter on a day-to-day basis anymore, but calling those principal conclusions is a false statement, and it created the impression that there is no evidence of any of these things, whereas the reality is the only reason that there wasn't a prosecution was that they couldn't do it. I mean, otherwise I believe very strongly, this is a belief, this is my opinion, that Bob Mueller and his people would have referred Trump and many other people, even some I think who haven't been, referred them for prosecution based upon their involvement in what amounted to a massive conspiracy. I mean, that's what it is. It's a conspiracy to obstruct justice. So that was a mischaracterization explicitly designed to allow for space between an initial announcement that the country had been waiting for at the time, knowing the impact that it would have on the press, and that it would lead people to think, well, okay, fine, maybe ultimately this really isn't amounting to anything. So that by the time the actual documents come forward and the report is released, it just doesn't have the same punch.
Yeah.
And people aren't looking to, what does it actually say? Because they've heard, a 2-sentence recitation of a conclusion. And therefore, especially those who want it to say nothing and wanted the report to fall like a phone book on the doorstep and mean nothing to anybody, who wanted the president to appear to be exonerated, had the soundbite they needed. And the president, I think by that evening, was tweeting in all caps, total and complete exoneration.
Yes.
Well, that's absolutely not what the report actually stood for.
Yeah, no, it helps set the tone for the political debate, the fallout over the Mueller report. And you're right. I have an acknowledgement to make, Jim. I did not read the Mueller report in its entirety. I had, for the longest time, at the Sun Times studio where we used to do this show before the pandemic, the Washington Post bound copy of the Mueller report. And what I had read from cover to cover was the Washington Post introduction, which was a fascinating introduction. And then their like bios of all the people, the relevant people in the story. So the crib sheet was really more interesting, I thought, than the Mueller report itself. So I have confession to make. Maybe Pat Dwyer was a little more dutiful than I was in the actual report. Confession time here in the Ben Joravsky Show. Interfered with impeachment subpoenas. Yes, we talked a lot about this over, oh my goodness, the impeachment process against Donald Trump, which was undermined by the way he handled the Mueller report and then interfered with impeachment subpoenas. Talk about that.
Well, yeah, I mean, the House, in their process, was allowed to subpoena records from the White House and from Trump about issues related to the letter and the call that Donald Trump had made when he was trying to essentially carry out this illegal effort to use the powers of the presidency to get the Ukrainian president to announce an investigation into Joe Biden and Hunter Biden and Burisma. That was the subject of the impeachment itself, that the way that Trump phrased this request for a favor was an abuse of his power, that he had power over this Ukrainian president because of the United States aid that was being sent to the country. And if anything, if Donald, I think we talked about it, and I may have made this point before, of the things that Donald Trump would understand about the nature of his office, he would understand that he has leverage over somebody like the Ukrainian president. So, you know, I think there's lots of things that he does not understand about his office or the powers of the office or the scope of his powers, but he knows when he's got leverage on somebody like that. So it wasn't an accident, and it certainly wasn't an innocent request when he asked, you know, to do us a favor, though, with respect to this Hunter Biden Burisma situation. And when the House tried to get documents, they were stonewalled. I mean, ultimately, one of the weaknesses of the impeachment process is that when a subpoena is issued to the White House from the House of Representatives requesting documents, they have, if, for example, if the White House refuses to participate, you certainly, as the House of Representatives, you can add that as another article to your articles of impeachment.
Yes.
You know, that to say that, okay, well, here's A, B, and C, how the president has violated the oath of office and abused the powers of the presidency, and D is disregarded and tossed in a shredder are subpoenas. Well, the problem is, if you, putting aside whether you can use that as additional evidence of guilt or an additional abuse of office, if you're going to actually get the documents, you need the Justice Department to actually enforce them. Which, if the Justice Department's not interested in doing justice, you're going to have a hard time with. And that was the role that Barr played in that process, that he was of no help to allow for the actual documentation of memos, of internal deliberations, and other things that may have occurred surrounding this phone call and the conversation and all of the communications to and from the Ukraine that would have possibly proven the Democrats' case in the House of Representatives that Trump did abuse his office. Because at the end of the day, one of the things that people probably learned, or at least would have heard about during the impeachment process, is you also don't just have one call between the president and the president of some other country. There's lots of things that lead up to that. There's negotiations over the parameters of the conversation, things that are, you know, talking points that are exchanged between the two sides so that they each know where they're coming from. I mean, these are sensitive diplomatic matters that nobody wants to have screwed up. And the people who do these jobs, at least before the Trump administration, took them very seriously in terms of trying to do it the right way and not avoid some kind of international incident and keep the right kind of terms that are consistent with American foreign policy alive in those negotiations and those kind of sensitive discussions. So there would have been a lot of other evidence of the genesis of this thing, including probably the involvement of Rudy Giuliani. But a lot of those documents weren't produced, and Lord knows where they ended up, because Bill Barr certainly saw himself as facilitating the defense of the president from this impeachment process. Yeah. And that, again, is not the job of the Attorney General.
Yes, well put. And I could, before we move on, the impeachment process failed to successfully remove Donald Trump from office, but from a political standpoint, I think it's pretty obvious that it contributed just to the general dissatisfaction that a majority of Americans had with Donald Trump, and contributed to his defeat. I think that's pretty obvious to be said. So when you just follow it to the conclusion, Trump won the battle but lost the war in the matter of impeachment, my humble opinion. Anyway, I'm going to move over and hold to the end his attitude toward Trump and his rhetoric about electioneering, and move on to Stone, Flynn, and Manafort. Oh, my goodness, these names. We talked so much over the last 4 years, definitely about Flynn and Manafort. Roger Stone, the sentences, and the interference just in general with an attempt to mete out some kind of punishment for the wrongdoing of these gentlemen. William Barr was right there on all three in all three cases, correct, Jim?
Well, and that's why it's such a cozy thing to play all the greatest hits as we're sitting here by the holiday hearth, right, Ben? I mean, these are the names that we've had to deal with for the last 3 years, or at least the last 2 years. Yeah, I mean, look, when at the end of the day, the thing that we started this conversation with is playing itself through right here. These guys, Paul Manafort and Roger Stone in particular, have been part of a Washington conservative establishment that isn't very far removed from Bill Barr for the last 40-something years, or almost 50 years in Washington, D.C. conservative politics. So his connection to those guys were already manifest. But the reason why it's even worse here is one of the most clear-cut ways that you can tell that a government and a country have fallen into authoritarianism and a destruction of the rule of law and the republic and a democratic society is when the Justice Department is used to prosecute the leader's enemies and protect the leader's friends. I mean, that's one of the, it's like a line I've read about Vladimir Putin when he took over, obviously a guy who knows how to manipulate the justice system in Russia because he came from their secret service agent or secret agency, the KGB. It was justice, or I think favors for my friends and justice for my enemies, or something like that. So that's what this represents. And that's why it's you might think, well, what difference does it make? Roger Stone is just this, goofy, conservative political character that's been around forever, and he's always been involved in dirty tricks. Who cares whether his sentence gets commuted? Well, I care, and people should care, because when that kind of thing happens, you diminish the seriousness of any prosecutions, and you diminish the seriousness of the meaning of the law itself. Because if it doesn't apply to the president's friends, why should it apply to anyone? And if they're only going to use it to be punitive, then nobody's safe. So in these cases, you've got Manafort, he's trying to help him out, trying to make sure that he doesn't go to Rikers Island. You've got Flynn, where first, after 2 instances where he pled guilty in court, as we've gone over multiple times on this show, they step in and try to shut down the entire prosecution. And it even went so far as the judge saying, I don't understand this. He's already pled guilty. I think I should be sentencing this guy. It went up on appeal. We had a show where we talked about that. And, now it all finally comes to a halt because he's given a pardon. So the rest of it ends up being rendered moot. But that was a serious perversion of the administration of justice in the first place, stepping in and trying to destroy an FBI investigation into someone who pled guilty to lying to the FBI. At the end of the day, if they cared at all about whether or not this was actually a law and order presidency, Ben, then they'd care whether or not people were concerned that if they lied to the FBI, that would be breaking the law. I mean, ultimately, isn't that undercutting the effectiveness of the FBI?
Yes.
Which, if you care about law and order, you should care about, and you should try to be consistent with. Otherwise, it will lose its efficacy because the people will start to think it's a corrupt institution.
Yeah.
And, the same thing applies to Roger Stone, because there they tried to mess around with his sentence, and you had several serious, thoughtful career prosecutors resign because Barr undercut them and recommended a lighter, and said, we're withdrawing and throwing out your sentencing memo that you put together, which is it's a serious thing. It's a serious official filing with a federal court, pulled it off the table and sent in something asking for the judge to softball the sentencing and recommend basically a slap on the wrist for someone, again, who is running afoul of federal law. At the end of the day, that's destroying the integrity of the entire system. So while it may seem kind of clownish because of the nature of the president's group of cronies that he's been surrounded himself with, it's still serious stuff. It doesn't matter how goofy these guys are. Or even if you think, well, he wouldn't have served that long of a sentence anyway because he's an older man or something like that. It still destroys.
No, it's absolutely. It was just all a part of the sort of the lawlessness of the Trump years, and that's a great line. Giving credit, a shout out to Putin. Favors for my friends and justice for my enemies. And that reminds me of that old line. It's a socialism for the rich, capitalism for everyone else. It's the same sort of principle there. And absolutely, double standards. If you're friends with the president, it's like a mobster mentality. If you stay loyal to one man, he will use his power to protect you. If you cover up his crimes, then he'll pardon you. And I don't know how I know there was a significant number of Republicans, but there was maybe 2 to 3% of Republicans who just couldn't tolerate Trump. But there's something to keep in mind, Jim, as we go forward. We say this all the time. MAGA controls the Republican Party and Trump controls MAGA. And so I would say 45% of the public would disagree with you on every single one of these points that you're making. At the same time that they would be evoking the principles that you are articulating when it serves their purpose against a Democrat, as is happening here in Illinois all the time. It's very important. Here's one on the list that I had completely forgotten. There's so much wrongdoing by Barr. Initiated the Durham investigation. Help jog memories of listeners with that one, Jim.
Yeah, this is like it served all purposes. So it satisfied the MAGA base. It satisfied Donald Trump's need to discredit all of the investigations that were being done into him in the first place. Mm-hmm. But it also served to create some kind of a distraction and at least the appearance that Democrats were either presently or had previously done something improper. So if people recall, while Trump was running for president, this was actually what led to the Mueller investigation. There were all kinds of contacts with Russian people, Russian agents, Russian emissaries, conduits through which they were having conversations. Konstantin Kalemnik, that was a name to whom Paul Manafort, or I think it was Manafort, was passing information about polling information. That was one of the things that the FBI was watching happen. So while Barack Obama was still president, and while it was 2016 and the Trump administration was involved in all these things, they were investigating Trump and his campaign because there were these questionable connections to a foreign country. It doesn't look right when you're running for president of the United States and you've got connections to not just foreigners, but people who are involved in the intelligence services of foreign countries, especially if it's Russia. So that was the nature of what they called Crossfire Hurricane, which was the investigation into Trump while he was still a candidate. He won the election, and after he was sworn in, he started tweeting and screaming and yelling about how his wires were tapped and that he was being illegally investigated and that it was a coup, which, by the way, never made sense because you can't have a coup if somebody hasn't gotten into the office yet. But that's not really good. I mean, that point would be lost on Mr. Trump. But he was, of course, mad about it. And that was one of the things that led to the suspicion of General Flynn, which led to Flynn being let go, which led to Trump talking to Comey about dropping the investigation on Flynn. I mean, all these things are all connected to each other. So in addition to the public screaming and yelling and all the malfeasance with respect to Jim Comey and the FBI, Trump also demanded, and I think was the one who requested, this investigation be done to investigate the investigators, to look into the origins of the Mueller investigation. So Bill Barr appointed John Durham, a United States attorney, to look into who knows what. I mean, it's not you and I probably couldn't understand whatever the chalkboard diagram of weird conspiracy theories that would justify that somehow Obama and his investigators were doing anything wrong. But that has been a fixation of the president since day one. So Barr took it a step further and actually tried to initiate this investigation. And at the end of the day, throughout September and October, he was demanding that Bill Barr release something. He kept tweeting about how this information was forthcoming. There's going to be they're going to drop this big bombshell. It'll be the October surprise about how the investigators were the ones who were corrupt. You know, at some point in time, a very highly regarded United States Assistant Attorney, Nora Danahy was her name, was like the assistant to John Durham in this investigation. A career person at the U.S. Attorney's Office resigned over what was going on. But even after all that, at the end of the day, Durham released nothing. You know, and now he's resigned from being in charge of this supposed investigation, and nothing ever happened. So, you know, you look at it, and it did accomplish the goal of allowing Trump to have a talking point about an investigation. Also, you know, that's authoritarianism 101, just creating a phony investigation just to be able to talk about it. But for some reason, I can tell you at least what my theory would be, they still couldn't even come up with something. They couldn't even phony up an actual report or a prosecution to effectuate this in some way. But Barr still signed off on it, and he still created it. So it had very dubious foundations. And then the fact that it ultimately yielded nothing really proves the point that there wasn't anything wrong. We shouldn't have to really prove that point. But it's just another example of why this has just been a train wreck of an attorney general.
Yeah, and he was bowing to the whims of Trump and helping create the notion that there was something outrageous going on that victimized Trump,
Right.
when in fact he was the victim of nothing except for his own excesses. And so it feeds the MAGA population that just wants to believe that Trump is the innocent victim. As though the word innocent could ever apply to anything Donald Trump does, that Donald Trump is himself the innocent victim of a deep state insurrection. All right, we're going to close with this final point, which is kind of a flip-flop. And it's just a perfect to come out of your discussion of the Durham investigation. Because in the case of the Durham investigation, Barr bent over backwards to give credence to the notion that somehow or other Donald Trump was the victim of shenanigans perpetrated by the Obama administration, the outgoing Obama administration. Now we're coming to the end of the Donald Trump presidency. He was decisively defeated at the polls by Joe Biden. And ever since then, he's been crying like a little baby, Jim Coogan, saying that he was the victim. Once again, he's the victim of fraud. An election was stolen from him. William Barr, at this moment, has sort of deviated from his entire, 2-year tenure as Donald Trump's chief legal enabler. He's deviated from it to say, well, I don't see evidence of fraud that would justify having a special prosecutor. Similarly, I don't see evidence of fraud that would justify having a special prosecutor into Hunter Biden's business dealings. So what the heck is going on, in your humble opinion, Jim Coogan, with Bill Barr? Is he just trying to get back in good with the Washington establishment to get a nice job? Is his conscience suddenly awoken? What game is he playing?
I think it's probably the last one. I think his conscience has finally gotten the best of him. Well, no, Ben, look, it's really hard to understand. Let me put it this way. The very simple explanation that seems to be transparent on its face is exactly what you just said, that now that it's convenient, now that he can leave, he's either accomplished whatever he wanted to accomplish or set in motion anything that he hasn't yet accomplished. Now that he can do that, he wants to just reestablish his reputation, that he's not a crazy MAGA enabler, that he himself doesn't subscribe to all of Donald Trump's perverse theories about the law, or the general theory that the law doesn't apply to Donald Trump, and that he wants to return to the DC elite cocktail circuit and the elite legal circles of Washington, D.C., and be accepted in those conversations and among those folks. It seems too obvious because it just kind of fits too neatly. That's the thing that kind of bothers me about it. Here he is right when the time comes, trying to save face and look at all the mainstream Democrats in DC and say, look, see, I'm not going to support crazy investigations into seizing voting machines and abusing powers through the Homeland Security or the Department of Justice going around and investigating what's happened. There's no real evidence of any of that stuff. Mm-hmm. It seems to fit too neatly that that's the explanation at this point. And underneath it all, does that mean that he has gotten promises from the president about his own legal culpability? Does it mean that he knows he's secured some kind of a pardon or something? This brings us back full circle to where he was at Christmas time in 1992, that he had already advised one president to pardon whoever he has to pardon, to insulate himself and to shut down any investigations into obvious criminality. And I would believe that there are things that have happened that he's been involved in that he would be the subject, or could be the subject of investigations in the future. So is he comfortable with it now because he already has some other leverage over the president that he can, because that's a surprise to me. How can he break with the president publicly and still be assured that he'll be taken care of on the back end?
Yes.
Because I have to imagine that he's worried about some kind of culpability coming out of this for something that he's done. Or he's covered himself properly and he isn't worried about it. And now that he's achieved the principal goals of undermining any investigation into a Republican president and set the predicate for future Republican presidents to continue to expand their executive power, and ran interference while Trump inserted 3 justices on the Supreme Court and dozens of justices on appellate and DC circuit courts. Maybe that's all it really amounts to. His work is done, and he doesn't want to be seen as a pariah and a lunatic, because no serious lawyer would adopt any of the legal stances that the president is taking right now.
Yeah, you couldn't even get Brett Kavanaugh to sign on to the Texas case. So, by the way, I'll just point this out. It's not over till it's over. Jeffrey Rosen will replace him.
That's right.
We'll see if Jeffrey Rosen appoints a special prize. We still got 4 weeks? Is that what we've left of the Trump presidency? So there's plenty of time for Jeffrey Rosen. And if that happens, we're bringing you right back to the show, Jim, to talk about the ultimate in sleazy machinations, where Barr steps down and his crony does the dirty work.
Maybe that's a setup, Ben. It could be.
Yeah.
I don't pretend to believe. Well, I certainly don't pretend to know. And I also would put nothing past the way that this operation has been run for the last 4 years.
Yeah. All right. We're pretty much run out of time for our discussion, but I just have to say one thing. I can see Jim. He can't see me, but as everybody knows, my resolution for the New Year is to get a new monitor where I have a camera. So when we do these Google Meets, I could see. But the thing that I've been can't get over, Jim, in the background, over your shoulder is a framed photo, and I'm far away. It looks like my beloved Chicago White Sox celebrating the World Series in 2005. Is my eyesight correct? And is that what that is?
Your eyes are pretty good, or the camera resolution is pretty good. Yeah, you got it. That is the on-the-field celebration at what I think what was it called at the time? Whatever the field was in Houston. It might still have been Enron Field at the time.
I think it was Enron. Yeah, speaking of sleazy corporate malfeasance. Yes, Enron. That's how I began the show, corporate malfeasance. But yes.
I think it was already Minute Maid Park by then. They might have already gotten in trouble.
They might have. That would have been 2005. Yeah, you could be correct. But were you at that game?
It was a glorious night. No. I did actually I was lucky enough to go to game one here in Chicago, but I watched that one on TV since it was down in Houston.
I did not know you were a White Sox fan. Somehow that eluded me, or if you did tell me, I forgot.
Yeah, a mask. It's actually a White Sox mask. So.
Oh my goodness, he's got a White Sox. You probably know this because I talk about it all the time. I never saw a reason to pick one team or the other, so I dutifully followed the White Sox and the Cubs pretty much my whole life. My heart broken by equal opportunity heartbreakers, the White Sox and the Cubs. I could tell you years in which each one of them, sometimes it was the same year. 77 was a particularly gruesome year. The White Sox, I thought were going to win the division with the Hitman, and then they blew it. I thought the Cubs, at one point, I think there were 25 games over the 500 mark. They blew it. So sometimes it's a twofer in the same year. But I'm through with the Cubs as long as the Ricketts owns them. So I'm now totally a White Sox fan. And one thing I'm really looking forward to, Jim, I put this in the reader. If this pandemic passes, getting back to a White Sox game, I'm looking forward to that. Just seeing that picture in the background made me kind of miss going to White Sox games.
Well, if you could indulge me for one more moment, the guy who introduced me to the White Sox a long time ago, unfortunately, I actually lost my father this year. I know you guys actually both did too.
Yes.
That was my initiation of being a White Sox fan in the first place. So I guess that's a good note to leave it on for our last show of 2020.
Yes, very good. Shout out to your father. He passed on a great tradition, the Chicago Whites. Tony, by the way, La Russa, apologize. I don't know if you saw this in the Sun Times. He apologized. Yeah. I'm willing to forgive and forget and move on. I'm really hoping the White Sox can bring us some fun this summer. I hope we'll be able to go back to games. All right, Jim, have a great Christmas and New Year's. We'll talk to you in the new year, all right?
All my best to you guys.
All right, that's the great Jim Coogan, good friend of the Ben Joravsky Show. D, you got any updates for us before we head out the door?
Coogan, come on!
We're going to have, when this pandemic passes, a Ben Joravsky Show field trip to a White Sox game.
Yes, we'll see you all in 2025.
Let's not forget El Dragon, another huge White Sox fan on our show.
Play ball.
Play ball.
Now, we were talking about the background there of Coogan's office. I was going to bring it up, but I also noticed a bobblehead back there. Any idea as to who that bobblehead was? You saw that too, huh?
Yeah, I saw it too. I couldn't tell.
Well, let's speculate. Let's speculate. Any idea? Who do you think that bobblehead was there?
That bobblehead is William Barr, Bill Barr, former Attorney General. I'm just kidding. Okay. I have no idea. It could be Bert. I have a bobblehead of the former alderman, Bert Terrace, somewhere in this room.
I was trying to stare at it, but I looked like a weirdo, like just trying to look right into the computer. I was trying that. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. I think it's a Jim Coogan bobblehead. I think he has a bobblehead of himself.
Oh, it could be. It could be a Jim Coogan.
We can give those away, Jim. We can give those away. That could be a prize. Are there more in your closet or something?
You know what? I'm looking behind me to see what I have behind me, because when I get my camera, and that's my resolution, okay?
Well, you're hyping up this camera. You better follow through.
I'm definitely going to get it. I really want it. It's just, it just makes the conversation much more enjoyable if I could see the person I'm talking to and they could see.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, let's do the back half here. We do have one story to discuss. But first, what do you say we do a little Chicago Bulls trivia, huh, Ben?
I'm very nervous. Okay.
Well,
the last time we did this, it was very complicated and convoluted. And
Yeah, it's kind of a shit show, but listen, all right? Jim and I, we've been talking here. We've been planning it out, and we got something planned here.
Let's go.
For those who weren't aware, by the way, our host, Ben Joravsky, loves the National Basketball Association team from Chicago, the Chicago Bulls. Also, for those who weren't aware, you must be new. Welcome to the Ben Joravsky Show. He never shuts up about the Bulls. Okay, let's move on here. Myself and Jim, live stream chat listener Jim, what's up, dude? We've been loosely planning, and loosely planning, a new segment here on the show, one where Jim sends us a voicemail asking Ben a question about the Bulls, and then Jim sends me the answer via email. By the way, nice work today, Jim. Up top, my man. All right. And we see if Ben knows the answer. Ben, go ahead and take a shot here for good luck. Let's make sure you get this right. Okay, you bricked it. Never mind. All right. Let's move on.
Jim, feel free to send in your prediction for the year. I'm accumulating everybody's predictions for how many games the Bulls will win this year. Dennis is the low. Dennis is so far the low. And I haven't figured out what the prize will be, but there'll be some kind of prize. Maybe a blue Mustang.
Coogan, do you have more of those bobbleheads, please?
Yeah, we'll get a bobblehead from Jim Coogan. There'll be some kind of prize. Don't know what it is yet. But a lot of people are weighing in. I've gotten quite a few predictions.
Okay.
And you are still the lowest number, D. Just saying that.
I believe you on the new computer screen. The prize, I don't know. I'm having a tough time. I don't know how the hell we're going to come up with a prize.
The prize may be a pat in the back and a hearty handshake.
Okay. Well, speaking of Pat, segue master, Pat has T-shirts, Ben Joravsky Show T-shirts for us. He lives near you. We got to set up a time to go pick those up.
Could be a Ben Joravsky Show T-shirt prize.
We could do that. We could definitely do that.
Yes.
All right, let's get to Jim's question here. His Chicago Bulls trivia question. I have the voicemail here. If you want to jump on board and send Ben a Chicago Bulls trivia question, feel free. 708-658-4788 after or before the show, please. When it rings, I don't know how to shut it off. It's embarrassing. Okay, let's move on. Here is today's question from Jim. Jim, he followed us during the radio days, the WC You Later phase, and he's made it to the podcast, and we're so thankful of that. All right, let's get to Jim's question here. Here we go.
Hello, Ben and Dennis. It's Jim from Live Stream Calling. One Bulls trivia question for Ben. When the Bulls traded Clifford Ray for Nate Thurmond back in 1974, what was the team they made the trade with? The name of the team they traded Clifford Ray to. And a clue of that, Joe Bryant became the first first-round draft pick that the Bulls threw in there. Joe Bryant was Kobe Bryant's dad, interestingly. It's just a little clue. I'm sure Ben knows it. Okay, thanks again, guys. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. Take care.
Jim, that was awesome. Great job, my man. Great job. All right. So, Ben, do you have an answer for Jim's trivia question?
Oh, my God. I remember the trade, 1974. I love Clifford Ray. Clifford the Mule Ray. Great center. Tough as hell. A lot of heart. And I was so excited when they made the trade. I was like mixed, torn between two lovers. Because Nate Thurmond was like a legitimate star center for the Golden State Warriors. That was the team, the Golden State Warriors. And it didn't work out for my beloved Bulls. The Golden State Warriors were victorious. They won the championship in 1975. And my beloved Bulls lost to the Warriors. They were up 3-1, Dennis. 3-1. All they needed was one more win, and they would close it out. But no, they lost 3 in a row, including a heartbreaker at the Chicago Stadium, a Mother's Day. I'm still weeping over it. So the team was the Golden State Warriors, Al Attles, Rick Barry, and Clifford Ray. It's just some of the players on that team. And Keith Wilkes, who was a rookie on that team, as you know, Dennis, and later changed his name to Jamal Wilkes. So anyway, Golden State Warriors.
All right, his answer is Golden State Warriors. And, even though every millennial just tuned out, let's just give the answer. Ben's answer was the Golden State Warriors. Ben Joravsky.
That's correct.
Nice work, my man. That was correct. Golden State Warriors.
Yeah, it's tough. It was a tough series for me. Still haven't quite got over it, D. And it was only, let me do the math, 45 years ago.
All right, guys. What a weirdo. He loves the Bulls so much, even from the 70s. And that was, Jim, nice work, my man. We made that work there. And that was Chicago Bulls trivia on the Ben Joravsky Show. That was awesome. All right, we have news about the Chicago Transit Authority, a.k.a. the CTA.
That's it.
The following comes from Ben's beloved Bright One, the Chicago Sun-Times, and Stefano Esposito. The headline reads, CTA takes significant step towards securing funding for Red Line extension. You okay?
Yeah. Oh. No, this story, I didn't know where you were going, but yeah, this story. Yeah,
you don't have a
ahead.
camera, so I thought you stubbed your toe or something. Okay. All right. The article reads here, the Chicago Transit Authority's planned Red Line extension has made a, quote, significant step towards securing about $1 billion in federal funds. This is from the transit agency on Monday. Without the Federal Transportation Administration's preliminary approval of the CTA's plans, the project likely would have hit a dead end. But officials said train service on the 5.6-mile extension, if the federal money is approved, is set to begin in 2029, 3 years later than originally planned, and about 2 years before, well, never mind, I'm not going to say, never mind. The earlier date was a preliminary, I was going to say before COVID-20 arrives, but anyway, the earlier date was a preliminary estimate and based on, quote, limited information. The CTA now has 2 years to complete the next phase, which includes finalizing the project's environmental impact statement and drawing up preliminary engineering documents. Ben Joravsky, your thoughts?
Folks, man, and people wonder why I'm so jaded and cynical and skeptical. And I wasn't this way when I first moved to Chicago. When I first moved to Chicago back in 1981, I was just an innocent young man from Evanston, Illinois. And I just believed when people said they were going to do something, they were really going to do it. And when people said that they believed in things like justice and fairness and equality, they really believed it. You know, I just was the innocent little guy that loved the Bulls. That's all I was. 1981, I moved to Chicago. And why do I talk about the way I was when I moved to Chicago? Because I've been hearing about extending the Red Line from the moment I moved to Chicago. The Red Line right now ends at 95th Street. So the notion is if you extend the Red Line all the way to the border of Chicago and its southern suburbs, you'll meet the transportation needs of a lot of people in a lot of neighborhoods that have been unmet. Their transportation needs for all these years. You can help spur economic development in neighborhoods that need it the most. It makes a lot of sense. Let me just point this out. This is the south side of Chicago. It's predominantly a black area. This is something else I learned when I moved to Chicago. Oh my God, wait a minute. They don't treat black people like they treat white people? No, wait a minute. Because I was young and naive. I didn't know. I was really naive and innocent. And I thought, well, everybody respects Martin Luther King. You know, we have it wasn't a holiday yet, but Stevie Wonder was pushing to get a holiday for Martin Luther King. Well, of course, you've got train service that takes care of the north side. You got train service that takes care of the northwest side. You got train service that all around the loop. The city cannot possibly be so prejudiced and biased against black people that you wouldn't have train service for the far south side, particularly since it made so much sense. I mean, you have the service. People can get to the jobs downtown. There was jobs booming in the suburbs. So if you have train service to the south side, it'd be that much easier for folks on the south side, the far south side, to get to the loop where they can catch trains and buses that would get them to the jobs in the suburbs. It's a win-win for everyone. And every year, folks, there'll be Southsiders agitating, demanding that the city sign on to the extension of the Red Line. And every year, the CTA would kick it further down the road. And all the dumb transportation projects that the CTA wasted money on while not taking care of the red line. They dug a hole. I'm not making this up, ladies and gentlemen. These are the people you voted for. I hate to ruin your day and reminding you that you voted for Richard M. Daley and all those aldermen, including you, 44th Ward aldermen, 44th Ward residents who vote for Tommy Tunney year after year. They just dug a hole in downtown Chicago for a train service that would provide high-speed rail to O'Hare and Midway, something no one in Chicago needs. They spent, I think, $250 million, don't quote me on that, maybe more, probably more, digging a hole under Block 37 in downtown Chicago to take care of the transportation needs of people who don't live in Chicago. They would literally dig a hole, just a worthless, useless hole in downtown Chicago, then take care of the transportation needs of thousands and thousands of residents on the far south side of Chicago. And people in Chicago are so jaded. My dear friend Mark Sims comes on this show. I remember him going, Ben, why even bother? Remember having that discussion with Mark Sims. Ben, why even bother anymore? Most of the people have left the south side of Chicago. So it won't even help the people that were looking forward to manning it back in the 80s and 90s. That's how Chicagoans are so jaded and so cynical about the, forget it, just don't bother anymore. But now they're talking about it, D. They'll do anything. Now here comes the part of the show where I throw my dear friend Ken Davis and Dave Glowacz under the bus. That's a good metaphor to use, D. We're talking about transportation. They will build a flyover at Belmont. Gotta have that flyover at Belmont. Mayor Rob, he had this thing, I want a flyover at Belmont. That's what we need, a flyover. They will turn that thing into some kind of George Jetson contraption that my beloved friends Ken Davis and Dave Glowacz say we really, really need. They will do that before they will extend the red line to 130th Street. You know, the city doesn't end at 95th Street. Uh-oh, Northsiders are like, whoa, wait a minute. You mean the city goes further south than Pilsen? Didn't know that. So, D, the CTA will do just about anything before they'll take care of the needs of folks who live on the far south side. And that was my welcome to Chicago moment. Like, wow, this world's not the sweet, little, beautiful, innocent place that I thought it was. It's run by bigots and racists and bullies. People who would rather dig a hole in downtown Chicago than take care of the far south side. So, D, I don't know. They have 2 years to get it off. I don't know if it's going to happen. You know what I'm saying? They've still got 2 years to get it off the ground.
I don't know either, but hey, listen, Ken Davis, Dave Glowacz. Hurts me to do this here, but, well, get your ass under that bus, would you?
No, come on, man. Dave Glowacz loves the flyover. Ben, the flyover's really good. Ken loves it too. I don't know.
Jay Marie asks, go ahead. Yeah. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, we're going to have to bring Ken Davis back to have the great flyover debate. Go ahead.
And speaking of, Jay Marie asked, when is Glowacz coming back for the city council update? Or, I'm sorry, Mr. City Council.
Yes, he is Mr. City Council. He will be back January 5th. I cannot wait. So much has gone down. And I know he'll collect all the great bits, exchanges. That's really become one of my favorite segments. Dave Glowacz comes on and we just break down the city council and all the fireworks. Oh, there's Byron Sixto Lopez, his exchange with Lori Lightfoot. So there's a lot to go through. And so Dave Glowacz will be here. I think it's the first Tuesday we get back from the break. And looking forward to that.
The new year. Can't wait. And finally, before we wrap it up here, the end of the year is here, and, well, let's be honest. It was god-awful.
That's correct.
God.
Tons of bad news, but in a weird way, that means good news for this podcast, because we have one hell of a 2020 end-of-the-year countdown special planned for you. Coming soon on the Ben Joravsky Show, Popcorn Gate, Madigan Gate, Haircut Gate, and more. It's the 10 Gates of Illinois Hell, a Ben Joravsky Show year-end countdown special. So, I made a list. I checked it twice. That's actually a lie. I checked it once. And, well, actually, that's also a lie. I just started the list during our interview with Jim Coogan. But right now, I have 9 major Chicago and or Illinois stories that we have discussed on the Ben Joravsky Show in the year 2020. And, you know, maybe it's a crutch, but each story, coincidentally, we have added the word gate to the end of it. Maybe a 2021 resolution. I don't know. But this year was awful, like really bad. So join us as we witness it go down in flames. Bring it, 2021. It's the Ben Joravsky Show's 10 Gates of Illinois Hell, a 2020 year-end countdown special. Like I said, I got 9 stories. Ben and I will probably brainstorm and come up with one more. But if you got any stories that need to be on this list, Chicago and or Illinois only, weigh in on the live stream chat if you're listening. Send us an email, BennyJShow@gmail.com. Social media, @BennyJShow, BENNY, the letter J Show. Reach out to us and let us know what stories you would like to hear in our 10 Gates of Illinois Hell, a 2020 year in review special. We would love to hear from you. We're going to be recording stories 10 through 5 this week. And Ben, when did we decide we were going to do that again?
I don't know. I think we did come up with the decision on that one. And I think, you know what? That was a great bit, by the way. I didn't know you were going to do that. It was really good. I think we should just call 2020 Gate. Just the whole year is a gate. 2020 Gate.
Well, we'll have a pre-show meeting about that tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll have a pre-show. That was really good. Probably Wednesday, I guess. Yeah, we'll do it Wednesday.
Tomorrow, okay.
Yeah, Wednesday.
And so I'll get 10 through 5 going here. And what the hell? I say, since the live stream chat has been with us every single day here on the Ben Joravsky Show with our local news, I say we do we live stream it as well. What do you say about that?
Whoa, man, get out the bong. I'm up for that. That's no net, but who needs a net? You know what I mean?
Dude, we do it every day.
So we go out a net every day, and every day we go, we'll edit that out for the podcast, and then I learned none of it gets edited out.
All right, so that is what we'll do here. Once again, the 10 Gates of Illinois Hell, a 2020 year in review from the Ben Joravsky Show. Weigh in. Okay, we got Speakeasy Gate. Kathy's weighing in with Speakeasy Gate. Cinnamon Roll Speakeasy. That's, of course, on the list. So we're going to be doing that, and we hope all of you will join us. Once again, we're going to live stream that, and it will be available for download at the Chicago Reader website and wherever else you download your favorite podcasts.
That's correct.
Oh my God. I don't know if that'll make the list, but the mayor's doing their little presentation about stay home, don't go meet with your family for Thanksgiving. That could be a candidate.
I think it could. I think it definitely could be a candidate. I don't know. I'm going to have to go to the drawing board here and really think about that.
Bad acting gate.
This is the right thing to do, even though it's a hard thing to do. Of course, I'll give your love to Amy and Viv and Hank. All right. Love you, Mom. We'll talk on Thanksgiving. Bye-bye.
Dramatic pause.
Man, I love that sigh.
Emmy's in the mail. And yes, Jay Marie, way to bring it up. She says, I remember Ben got fired during one of these countdowns. Yes, we were in the middle of a countdown, and Ben got fired.
We call that Firegate.
Yeah, story number 6. Ben gets fired, and that was it.
Yeah, what the hell? All right, I want to thank Jim Coogan. Outstanding job, as he always does. And, of course, I want to thank the man, the myth, the legend, the pride and joy of Alton, Illinois, without whom this show would be possible. And as Jim Coogan and the entire 2005 Chicago White Sox team will tell you, back home in Alton, they call him Dr. D. Give us a raise. Take it out of petty cash. See you tomorrow, everybody.
That's correct. That's correct.